If you've ever field dressed your animal with a Havalon blade, you've probably ended up with something that looks about like this. Realistically, Havalon blades are going to be a little too fragile for most hunters to use. Yes, if you have the right amount of finesse, you can get good with them and they're incredibly useful. But most people that I see end up breaking them anyways. Now, my favorite option used to be the outdoor edge just because I would never break the tip of the blade, but it did have its own issues. Meat would get in the locking mechanism and the blades would fall out or it would clog. Now, a brand called Tyto recently came out with a new option for a replaceable blade knife. This is their hollow bone. So it's going to be your standard Havalon mount on a regular handle, but with a proprietary replaceable blade. In my opinion, this blade has two advantages. Number one, it's a little larger, so you have more surface area for cutting with, which I personally prefer. And then number two, it's going to be quite a bit stronger. So you're really not going to have the risk of breaking this off inside an animal while you're working it up. I'll try and give you an example here. We've got a brand new from Havalon 60A blade. And we're going to mount it on this knife. So you'll see with just a little bit of force, I'm able to break that blade pretty easy. With the Tyto, takes quite a bit more effort. As you saw, it had a lot more flex in it, and like I said, it has a 53 HRC or hardness rating, which is technically pretty soft, but the benefit of that is the tip of your blade isn't going to crack or chip, and it's also going to have a little more flex in it. You're going to have to try pretty hard if you want to break this off while you're working up an animal. Whereas the Havalon, obviously, is a known issue. So on their website, it claims to be thicker than a 60 size blade, and that is true for a 60 XT or a normal 60, but for the 60A, the Tyto blade is actually a little thinner. So you got 24 thousandths of an inch there, and then you've got 20 thousandths of an inch here. Oh, 19. So you've got a little bit thinner blade, but as you can see, the actual thickness or height of the blade is going to be substantially more. That's going to give you a lot more strength, especially with rotational force, any kind of twisting or prying. This blade's going to hold up a lot better. So another thing I want to mention is how to remove this blade, because I feel like a lot of people struggle removing a Havalon blade. And there's a couple different tricks to it. For the Tyto Hollow Bone though, it's pretty easy. You just take your replacement blade and you'll notice that there's actually a gap between the end of the blade here and the handle. That allows you to get your replacement blade in there to pry this other blade off. So you simply take your replacement blade, push up, give it a little twist like that, and your other blade comes right off. Now, one thing I will mention is that this handle is coated, I'm not exactly sure in what, similar to like a powder coating. Basically, the tolerance between the mounting option here, when it's brand new, is going to be a little too large. That's because that coating needs to be scraped off. That is perfect because that means that the actual titanium underneath is going to be a very tight tolerance. So over multiple uses, you'll get the proper tolerance instead of having it loosen up. And then the last thing I'll talk about here is the actual handle of the knife. Obviously it's very skeletonized, lightweight. It's got a little carbon thumb tab here, which I really like. Personally, I would purchase the inserts. I think they sell a carbon insert that goes inside the handle. Just gives you a little more control. I like a bigger handle myself as opposed to these flat handles. They kind of will rack in your hand, but just as is, the fact that it's got this width right where the thumb and the finger go feels pretty nice in your hand, and you don't have any lip here to hook up on. So obviously old Havalon blades would have this little thumb tab so that you could replace the blade easily, but if you were cutting your hide, the hide would come over top of that sometimes, and then it'd get a little bit stuck. Sometimes you'd even pop your blade off pulling out. So you won't have that problem with this knife. And honestly, I'm really excited to use it. So we've got them for sale right now at gearful.com. If you're interested, definitely go check it out.